we get to go into the EDM world. We've been wanting to do that for a while. We've got a new ITL, we've got contest winners, we got all kinds of stuff. It's Pensado's place.
Yeah, I know, I look like a dork, but I have a reason. I won the Oprah Winfrey Valentine's Makeover Award, so my wife entered me in that, and I won. Yeah, thanks, Drew. I think I look pretty cool.
Oh, you won it?
I won it, yeah.
Oh, I thought something else.
I had this done yesterday.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I'm actually an inch shorter, too.
Congratulations.
They change everything.
Congratulations.
I got the inch that they took off, they added somewhere else. That's kind of fun.
By the way, we had some requests from...
That's funny, Herb.
I know. And I'm cracking up. We have some requests. We have some requests from our audience to get you into Yay rehab. Your timing is gone. So we got to work that out.
I know.
It was brought back by popular demand.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll take it serious then.
All right, cool.
I thought that it was just something you were doing to placate me.
No. That Yay is important.
Placate.
Placate. That's the word. That's the word of the day. Placate.
Man, check this out.
Great week.
Great week. I spoke with Mike Elizondo, my buddy, and Mike Shipley. Had a great conversation with him. Spike Stent, who's one of my favorites also, and they've all committed to, around their schedule.
Sure.
Coming in the next few weeks. So we're going to have a hell of a few weeks, man.
Kudos to you. You have been a booking monster. So it's going to be an advantage to all you folks out there. Dave has been on the grind, so coming to you, good stuff.
You know I don't book the show. I just pick up buddies I want to hang out with and talk to. I'm so blessed to be able to do this.
Aren't we all? Some of our buddies did well during the Grammys, too, right?
Oh, man. Yeah, tons of them did, but right now, in the interest of time, I just want to give a shout-out to Brad Blackwood with Euphonic Masters. Brad, congratulations, man. He did... Moves Like Jagger and the Alison Krauss thing with Mike Shipley, and we're real proud of Brad.
Plus a good guy.
He's a great guy.
Really great guy.
Yeah.
Great guy. Let's get our homework stuff out of the way. We've got a great guest here for you. We want to get to that, and a great ITL as well. In our chat room, always hello to our Vintage King friends. What's up, guys? Darren Finley's there. You see his page up on the screen. I think Dave has a question for you guys to ask Darren. What's the question, Dave?
I want you guys to ask him the sonic difference between Class A and Class AB Neve modules, sonically.
Ooh.
And if he has some time, you can ask him the electronic difference, and make sure that he gives you a distinct, in-depth answer.
All right, Darren.
He enjoys that stuff.
Darren, you're being challenged. Let's do that. And then we have also our wonderful buddies at Avid, who have got this great contest where we're in our second week of our Pro Tools contest, where we're getting you that $699 bundle right away.
We're giving away Pro Tools 18, right?
In 8 weeks.
Well, the difference between Pro Tools 10 and Pro Tools 18 is Pro Tools 18 comes with Drew.
Oh,
so Drew drives by your house and actually does a lot of this stuff for you.
That's pretty good.
And then of course, Alex and GI and those guys hang out in the garage.
We have the most creative contests in the world. So, but let's make sure you guys enter this. You can enter it at pensadosplace.tv/avid. We've had a wonderful response so far. Continue to do that. You see it up there on the page. Our man Will is making sure that you know how to enter. Great response. We spoke with Avid this morning. They're pleased. Do your thing. The more you enter, the multiple times you enter, the more opportunity that you have to win. So make sure you do that. PensadosPlace.tv
holding something up
/avid. No, I don't have it, but we'll get it before the show's out. And let's announce last week's winner. Yay! Drum roll. Very good. Drew, and the winner is Dwayne Smith. Congratulations, Dwayne.
All right.
We will get that thing out to you, and you rock it and make those mixes and make all your work wonderful. I think Dwayne is from North Carolina, so we're going to make sure we get that out to you again. Congratulations,
North Carolina.
All you guys enter, so we can be calling out your names next week. We got a good ITL. We got good stuff. It's
Great
just
ITL.
been. Yeah, well, this is an aggressive year. So I think the ITL is on vocal compression, isn't it? And automation and stuff? I think it is.
Yeah, that and how to make $20 million in 4 days in the music industry.
Let's start with that.
Okay.
Okay. So why don't you introduce ITL and let's get on with it.
Man, it's a good one. I think we set it up, and I always set it up twice. I'm not going to do that today. Just might add that I love this song, and everything else is self-explanatory. Hey guys. A while back I've shown you a couple of different techniques for vocal compression specifically. How sometimes I ride the vocal a lot. I'll use the automation in Pro Tools for that. And last week on the show, Umberto mentioned that he does it on a console. So I thought we'd revisit this concept a little bit and expand on it. And I've chosen a band called Loquat, and the song is called Monsters. Kylie Swinson is lead vocalist, a good friend of the show's. Anthony Gordon is on bass and did a lot of the recording and producing. You might want to check it out on YouTunes. I think it's YouTunes. Don't edit that out, Will. Leave that in. I lost my train of thought. Let's go right to it, guys. Here's the track, the way it appears on the record.
So tightly, tell me, is the only choice to hurry through every...
Okay, guys, the two tracks you see, the top one is what we're going to use to show you the automation. They're identical. This one is showing you the compression. They're not playing at the same time. So here's the track soloed with compression.
Why are these thoughts wound so tightly? Tell me, is the only choice to hurry?
And then in the mix, I also added a little bit of this guy. I want to show you this because this is my new favorite plug-in. This is with the vocal writer after it.
Why are these thoughts wound so tightly? Tell me, is the only choice to hurry?
Man, that's sweet. Okay, now this is just with. I'm gonna spend a little more time on this guy. This is just with me writing it in. Let me play it for you one time without anything. I guess we'll go back and use this one, Will.
Why are these thoughts wound so tightly? Tell me, is the only choice to hurry?
Okay, now that's with nothing. This is with the automation.
Why are these thoughts wound so tightly? Tell me, is the only choice to hurry?
Now let's take a little section and let's nuke the automation for just this little section. See if we can hear a difference.
Why are these? Why are these? Why?
You know, I might have picked too much. Check this little section here.
Why?
Hear the end of the why. She does this really cool little, I don't know, I loved it when I heard it. So this is without it.
Why?
That sounds kind of straight across the note, and I like bringing it up.
Why?
Now it got a little louder without the automation. Don't let that throw you off. Now here's this section without automation.
Are these?
The end of the R, I didn't like that, so I worked around that. Watch this.
Are these?
See how the energy, we found the little spots in the vocal that just have beautiful little nuances that the sum of which contribute to the overall vibe and feel of the song. check this section. Let's do it without any automation.
That's one so tightly. That's one so tightly.
I'm not sure what she's saying. Thought so, something tightly, but this little section right in here, watch it without automation.
That's one so tightly.
Now watch it with it.
That's one so tightly. That's one so tightly.
Dun, 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 like dun, dun, dun. That beat now has emphasis. Watch.
That's one so tight.
Without it,
That's one so tightly.
it's just kind of linear. So we created a little bit of excitement, but at the same time, we're finding those little nuances that make her uniquely her. I try to do that with all the vocalists I work with.
That's one so tightly.
Just has a vibe to it. Here's another little section without automation.
Is the only choice to. Is the only choice to.
Now in your mind, think about, okay, I just heard that. What would I do? Well, the second half of the phrase doesn't have the impact that it should, so watch.
Is the only choice to. Is the only choice to.
Now the second half now picks up and it has impact. Without it,
Is the only choice to. Is the only choice to.
now just for comparison, let's see what the compressor did with that.
Is the only choice to. Is the only choice to.
That's not bad. Compressor's a lot smarter than we think sometimes, but this is money in the bank.
Is the only choice to. Is the only.
So I think you guys are catching on. If you want to hear more and want me to show more nuanced things that I do, let me know. I just wanted to give you a feel for with the compressor and vocal writer, which is incredible, or with nothing other than writing the automation in. I tried to make sure that our levels were pretty close. Sometimes when I take the automation off, the levels go crazy. But also too, now don't be afraid to add a little bit of compression. Let's see if we can do this on the fly, Will, if this works out.
Why are these fats ones so tight? Why are these fats ones so? Why are these fats ones so tightly? Tell me, is the only choice to hurry?
That's not bad, guys. Check that out. All right, next week. I hope the haircut wasn't too distracting. You actually got, holy cow. Makeup. We have makeup staff, don't we?
We do.
Man, I tell you what, I'm really excited to have Steve as our guest today, Steve Duda. And check this out, Herb. When I met him, he was assisting with, no, I can't remember. Did I meet you with Andy?
Yeah.
I did meet him for the first time with Andy Wallace. He was working with Andy. He formed BSOD with Dead Mouse, and Dead Mouse's first #1 record was their partnership and collaboration. Tommy Lee, one of my favorite drummers ever. 9 Inch Nails, the Cool Double album. Sugar Ray, Rob Zombie. He co-created BFD, Big Freaking Drums.
Cool.
And F Expansion created. I mean, golly! I told Drew on the way over, we're gonna break his legs. I mean, the guy's got perfect pitch, playing cello when he was like in diapers, classically trained. The only negative thing you can say about him is he grew up in San Francisco, like Will.
Oh.
Jesus. Welcome, Steve. I'm not sure that was what that was as an intro, but
It's all good to the end.
happy to have you. Absolutely.
I love San Francisco.
Yeah.
I can't go there anymore, but I still like to visit once in a while. Man, the obvious question is to make the whole show about Dead Mouse and Andy Wallace, but
Of course.
okay, let's do that. The creative partnership with Dead Mouse, how'd that come about? You guys were friends prior to when he was just like like little dead rat. I mean, he
That's
wasn't even
right.
announced
No,
yet.
he was 16, I think 17, just starting to make music when I met him. And this was 99. I had just come off the Nine Inch Nails record, and I thought I was really hot stuff, you know. So,
Well, you were.
oh well, yeah, thank you.
That was a great record.
Yeah, it was. That was a whole other experience. But so I was online. I was beta testing this software called Fruity Loops, which is now called FL Studio. It's a sequencer. A lot of dance guys are using. So we were both beta testers. So we're in this private beta testing forum, and we were basically the two voices of dissent, or the peanut gallery. So we got along well. Where everyone else was sort of kissing butt, and we decided to complain about things or whatnot. And so we got to talking and started hearing some of his music, and I didn't know anything about the guy. He wasn't going by deadmau5 at the time, and I started hearing his stuff. I was just like, I wonder who this guy's worked with, and I wonder what he's doing. And he's like, no, dude, I'm 16. I live at home with my mom. And I was just floored, because his stuff, this was like the MP3.com heyday, where you could hear all this electronica, and it was just all just junk. And to hear his stuff, it was just obvious that this guy's got natural talent. So we just stayed friends and chat a lot online, then just decided eventually to start making music together. Our first stuff wasn't dance at all. It was more almost like Radiohead or something. I'd play guitar and do vocals. He'd do glitchy beats. And then we did some drum and bassy stuff, and just a little eclectic. Then finally I got into programming my own software. I made this plugin called Lucifer that allowed you to do sort of beat repeaty type of stuff. And all these DJs started buying it, because at the time there was no...
This was like...
This is like
golly.
Yeah,
9 years before Stutter Edit.
That's right. It was very stutter edity. In fact, I believe BT was a customer of it, and it allowed you to manipulate beats and rearrange sixteenths and all that kind of stuff. But all these DJs started buying it and using it, so I got exposed. DJs invited me to their concerts and everything. I got exposed to dance music, which I had checked out of in the 90s, going, oh, this is too cheesy. And I realized, holy cow, this is actually the new rock and roll in a way, where you have a audience that's willing to listen to something new, and and I love synthesizers, and you can actually be really synth heavy, but really kind of do what you want and get people to listen in a receptive way. Where rock and roll, just working record after record, I started feeling like it's very formulaic, where the A&R guy's going, oh, you got to take off the slide guitar, that won't work on radio, and I felt like, well, where's the fun in this if you have to be cookie cutter about it all? So dance got me more interested, but felt like such an outsider and knew nothing about it. So I talked to Tidbounce. I was like, hey, let's do it, 4 on the floor. Kind of like, have you heard of Beatport? Check it out. Like we could nail this. So we did it as a complete joke and hit #1 at that point, and it happened a couple times, and that set a fire under his butt to really like kind of hone in that sound. I think seeing the success and the potential, because he was making websites for a living and things like that. So at that point, deadmau5 was born, and he started just nailing it out of the park.
Wow. That's a great story.
Absolutely.
And from that experience, I'm sure you both took things from each other from that experience. How do you approach like the low end now in terms of some of the things you're doing? Is there a formula that you use, or you just trust your instincts, pull up a synthesizer, and pull up a kick drum? Are you layering your kick drums? I'm asking you 1,000 questions at one time. Maybe you start answering something.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, first and foremost, I can't just really inherently know what's going on with the low end without hearing it. So either having a sub, or like even just my Gentle X that go down to 29 pretty much flat, that gets me down enough that I can have an idea what's going on. Without that, I see you guys produce on a laptop, and
Which model Gentle X are you using?
I'm using the 8250As.
Okay.
Yeah. So those go plenty deep enough that I have a feeling like I know what it's going to sound like in the club. Some guys seem to be able to do it on a laptop or headphones. I have no idea how.
No.
It just blows me away, because headphones, I never know what's actually happening. Anyway, in terms of like approaching the low end in a producing aspect, my main thing for most stuff is really that when the kick's happening, the kick takes focus, and I really just make sure that there's some exceptions, but generally I make sure the kick is really pretty short and just in your face. So at the moment that it's happening, it's consuming all power of your whole mix, but then it goes away pretty quick, and that gives the room for the bass to have plenty of stuff, because I'm not a fan of the whole like super sidechain the bass, where you end up with the second 2/16ths of every beat, and that doesn't give you very much room to do something interesting with the bass part if it's always just going So I'd rather have the bass feel like it's always in there if you want it to be. So I try to keep the kicks really short, like 200 milliseconds or less, and and let the bass do the work of being the sort of subby, more
Did you
body
hear that,
element.
Drew? He's like got his kick drum down to like times and stuff.
Taking notes.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we're in the dark ages over here. Man, I got so many questions about this process. I was hanging out with La Castlevania, who's visiting us in the studio today, a couple of days ago, and he was sitting there with a laptop, and right next to him is a room full of vintage synths. If I was doing what you're doing, I'd just use a laptop and virtual synths. I'm a big fan of virtual synths. Are you using a hybrid of both, or are you more in the virtual world?
Definitely mostly in the virtual world. You know, I get asked, because of my sort of engineering background, a lot of people start asking me, as I'm sure you're well familiar with, gear questions. And a lot of the time, you know, which compressor or which anything, and I always just feel like neither. You know, save your money and buy some software. You know, the analog synths really give you a couple big advantages. One is just the flaws in character, whether it's needs servicing and the pitch tracking's not right, so every octave is more and more out of tune, or sort of those flaws. Or the other part of it is just the tactile experience, where when you have an analog synth, you invariably will start playing something with your right hand and then start turning knobs with your left hand, which in the soft synth world, you don't really end up doing that for whatever reason with a mouse on a knob and playing. It's not the same kind of experience. So, you know, I've had a lot of good sort of lucky accidents happen where you're just kind of turning knobs on an analog synth and you start interacting. So you're playing the note and then you're turning something.
My whole career could be described as a lucky accident. Let me see this. And back in the day when like when I'd be playing in a band and we had a record deal, and there was always somebody in the group that would say, you know, we can't do that because we can't do it live. Do you make a distinction between, because you've got an incredible live show that you're putting together, you're trying to move the whole medium forward. I think you should be respected for that. We'll talk about that in a minute. But in terms of when you sit down and create, do you worry about your live show, or do you worry about?
Not in the slightest. I've worked on records where people say that. It's like, well, we can't put that on the record because there's no way we're going to recreate it live. And it's sort of like,
but
who's going
in
to
the
care?
EDM world, you don't have to worry about that, do you?
Definitely not.
Oh,
no,
good.
Definitely. That's the last thing from my mind is how it's going to come across live. Really, however, the music really has. It's really made for a club or a live venue in a sense. Like you're really making music for the dance floor. So there's a little bit of thought about how an audience, in terms of an actual audience out, is going to react to the music. So you're thinking a bit about that, but in terms of how the performance is going to be done, that's the last thing in my mind.
Would it be a fair statement to say that even now you don't worry about the club, just the live audience, because there's like a lot of the shows now, the live shows, the beat isn't continued for the dancers. It's just more the experience of the moment that's taking precedent. Is that a shift in that world? In other words, is it going to live performance and not I'm kind of conflicted on how to ask this question. Confused is the right word, actually. When you're making dance music for dance clubs, you've got to keep the beat going. Is there a distinction between what you're doing for clubs and records and then the live thing? You don't worry about dancing when you're doing the live thing. It's just all about the lights and the sound and the performance.
I mean, you can definitely get away with 16 or 32 bars even of having no beat going on and things. But people really are anticipating that the beat's going to come back when you do that. If you don't provide it coming back, they're going to sort of look at you sideways or lose interest or move to the other room. And very often there's other DJs playing. So if you want a track to be successful in the club world, I do feel like you have to give people what they want. Now, it varies a little. There's all these different genres going on right now, and there's these dubstep. Dubstep and sort of slower tempo stuff, you don't have to really worry as much about keeping people's bodies moving because it's a little more of just a sonic assault, and people are just appreciating this bass and being overwhelmed with this sort of sensory input from the sound. But for me personally, when it comes to making music for that whole world, I still think of the stuff that I love satisfies both hemispheres of the brain, and since there's this body thing going on, it's something that makes you want to dance.
Say that again, expand on it. That's really cool.
Yeah, and I really I want music that I could sit down and be checking my email and I enjoy as a listening experience, but then if I want it to also be successful on the dance floor. So I really try to make sure that both things are going on when I'm working on a track. It's like, does this make me want to move? And yet, is this something that's interesting to listen to? And it's not easy to do it, but my favorite artists, such as Deadmau5, are able to do that, where the music makes you want to move and nod, but at the same time, it's something that you could sit back and it's not going to sort of overwhelm you sonically. It's something that's interesting, and it's not too boring at the same time. It's not something that's just all rhythm, but there's something that you can actually appreciate in a cerebral sense.
When you start a composition, and you know it's going to be part of your show, do you start with? Do you just start with like sometimes some writers just buy a new synth and a new patch just creates a whole new song. I've seen that happen and be #1 records. Do you start with a game plan? Do you start by just walking in the studio and just whatever you feel, like some little nucleus of a kick drum sound will start a whole track, or how much of it is just intuitive and feel like somebody that's new to this, like the next 16-year-old Deadmau5?
Sure.
What can you share with them in terms of the beginning of the creative process that leads you to an end result quicker?
Well, I think there's sort of two different roads that I personally will take. One is, I kind of think of them as the uninspired and the inspired route, right? So the uninspired route is you have no idea in your head, you just know you want to get some music made. And so with that way, I sort of can follow this connect the dots, color by numbers approach, where I start with the kick drum, and you bring up the kick drum, and you sort of select a sound that sounds like, oh, that's...
Is this a favorite kick drum or a random kick drum?
No, I'll go through a bunch of kick drums, and it's really just a question of trying to reflect off of whatever mood I'm feeling, or just once something I hear it and I go, oh, I like that. Because for me, it's all about, if I'm uninspired, I have to get a spark. It's sort of like a cigarette lighter, and you're trying to get it to make the flame, so it's like you need that correct spark. So I'll just go through kicks until one kind of sparks me, and then, okay, cool, I'll just go with that. And I won't go any further, like trying, oh, well, maybe there's a better one. No, it's like, okay, there's a spark, put that down, and then same thing with claps or snares. And so that's the uninspired route. It's kind of just building everything up like you're architect building another skyscraper or something, like, okay, I know what I have to do, and then hopefully somewhere along the line it switches over into the inspired route. But my favorite way to do it is more from starting from the inspired route, which is you hear a melody in your head, or maybe something emotional that you know, sort of chord-like, and for me, music is very much about, a song that you love. You can hum it and think it in your head and hear it. And so for me, to make a piece of music that's not just like, oh, cool dance track, but it's actually sort of what I think of as a song or good music, has to be something that you could sit down at a piano and play, and people go, oh, I know what you're playing. So I really want to have that kind of element in it. So my favorite way to start a piece is from that. So there might be a little melody idea that I have in my head, and I'll start by just transcribing that out. And then I like to try to avoid the uninspired route as much as possible by avoiding even putting in a kick drum for as long as possible, and try to get musical elements in there, and then try to sort of, you could say, remix that and start introducing that later on.
You recently did a fairly good-sized, lengthy tour with Skrillex.
Yeah.
The first thing you wrote after that tour, did it sound like Skrillex?
Yes and no. It's funny you should ask. Actually, I took a break halfway through the tour. I had a show in Guatemala, and they were doing a Canada run without me. And so I had a little time. I had 4 days in LA. And before I had left on that, Skrillex said to me, I want to hear what it'd sound like if Steve Duda did dubstep. And I was like, oh, gosh, because I've always kind of avoided it. It's just never been something
Why would he say that?
Because he
didn't think you could do it?
No, he just respects me a lot. He likes the music I've done with BSOD and everything, and he was just very curious what would happen if I did a dubstep track. Like, he wanted to know what it would sound like. So curiosity, I guess. And so I went home and I was like, I'm going to do it, but I didn't want to just clone the cliches. I mean, that's one of those things that the cliches are all too obvious in dubstep. So I'm like, okay, no, just straight up wobble kind of thing or whatever. So I took the rhythmic patterns that you hear, which is a lot of LFO time changing, and I just applied that to all sorts of different sounds, and there was layering and trying to sort of do an orchestral without orchestra sounds, but try to do this sort of orchestrating all these rhythmic motions. And oh God, I mean, it's not dubstep what came out. It's terrible. It's terrible if it's dubstep, and it's wonderful if it's something else, kind of a thing. It's its own thing. So yeah, it did. In a sense, I got that Skrillex influence from that, but more than anything, I was just influenced by everyone on the tour. There was a lot of great other artists. It was just a great experience, and it's really motivated me to just spend less time on programming software, and more time just working on my own music.
One of the things that I respect and love about the hip hop community is they'll work on each other's records. I mean, obviously money's involved, but there's a community of little camaraderie and work on other people's records. In the dance world, it's on steroids. I love the fact that like guys will remix another guy's record, and like the top guys all kind of share, and I think that's healthy for the community. In terms of like our 16-year-old that could potentially be deadmau5, when he gets to be 10 years in the business, where is this going? Because it hasn't taken over radio completely yet. Skrillex just won some Grammys, so a lot of inroads into the mainstream are being met. Is that going to kill it and turn it into disco part 15, or is that going to take it into something? Do you have a vision for the future, or is that something we should even think about?
Well, my personal opinion is that you have a certain mainstream channel that almost never changes in a way. It's pop music seems to wear the latest fashion, and if it's Britney Spears using dubstep influences or whatever the latest thing, artists are doing that. And I don't think it's purely just a business calculated move. I think it's something that, oh, hey, this is exciting. I want to do something new. I want to do something new and exciting. So you have artists looking to the more underground scenes for sort of inspiration, and they'll collaborate that way. Obviously, for a guy with no money and some big pop star approaches them, it's like, sure, no brainer. I could use my rent paid. So those collaborations will continue. So I feel like whatever changes stylistically in the sort of EDM world is always going to be reflected a bit in the pop world. But I don't see a shift. It's already massive in the sense that touring...
Especially the live stuff.
Yeah. I mean, touring with Skrillex and seeing these places, you know, him playing these big theater places, 4,000 or 5,000 kids, and 3 nights in a row, and they're all sold out. And they were all sold out the first day he put tickets out for sale. Right. And then these kids outside, you know, saying, I just paid $250 for this, even though Skrillex, you know, tried to keep the ticket prices as low as possible. They were generally $25, or he could have charged a lot more. But scalpers, of course, so kids are buying 1,000% inflated ticket prices and crying about it, but they're not going to miss the show. So
do you see this world going to the live outdoor venues, or do you see it going towards radio, or
it already
everything?
has. It already has. There's some of it does feel like a temporary imbalance to me, where things are eventually going to change. And what that is to me is the DJ part of it. Which is the roots of it, and I have a lot of respect for all sorts of different, from turntablists to guys that can just pick out great tunes and make a great night for people. But I do feel like the DJ part of it is this strange imbalance, because what you have now more and more is the big DJs are actually music producers. They're the only reason that they're internationally known is from their tunes. Now, when they go do a show and they're just kind of playing back those tunes, they could basically be anyone's iPod and doing that. And I find that like a little strange imbalance, where you have this room full of people all tethered with their eyes to this guy standing there doing next to nothing.
Like I noticed on your shows, you're creating stuff. You leave yourself a lot of room to actually create on the fly.
That's right. To me, that's important, and maybe some guys don't want that ability.
Everybody has different.
I've always had this feeling of wanting to do something live, and it
just
gets
to create that tension like this show does. When live gives the potential for viewing a train wreck on the freeway.
Exactly. It's something I don't want it to be completely self-indulgent, but I would hope that the audience would appreciate that, or to gain certain, a certain following of people that don't want to hear things perfect and exactly the same, and they want to actually hear some kind of something that makes a night that's an event in a moment where it's something unique happening. So I've gotten a little philosophical when trying to piece together, coding my own software to assist me and everything, trying to figure out what is live versus not live, and it's sort of a philosophical question of what actually makes a performance live. And I was speaking to a friend of mine who is a touring bass player, and he said, live is the ability for things to go wrong. and I sort of said, yes, that's exactly
kind of the benchmark of this show.
Yeah, absolutely. wrong.
Right.
So, no, but it's a great approach, because it feels like an area that is morphing and evolving, and in order to manage it, you have to kind of stay ahead of it and be thinking about it. And I always find that people who think about those things tend to be the game changers eventually, and it comes from you caring about it, correct?
Absolutely, it comes from me caring in it. And if no one remembers my performances, that's just fine. But if it influences some other guys to go do the same thing, where they're like, well, I don't want to just play back my songs. I'm going to bounce out all the stems and start doing whatever I can to make it a unique experience, then great. I've accomplished my mission. I'm not out for credit, but I'm out to try to help evolve things.
it sure feels like EDM is at that like the Beatles stage of rock and roll, where some people have come along and showed the potential, and the next 20 years is going to be pretty spectacular. It just kind of has that feel, and because of the rules of the road, it can be so inclusive. You know, it's like it's not a restricted form like, say, blues, where you know, which influenced so many early bands and limited what the Stones could do early on, limited what a lot of bands could do. It seems like in the EDM world, it's so inclusive, and there's so few rules that it could be pretty popular for a long time.
I think so.
And grow and morph and change.
I think so. It changes fast. It's, you know, I've really watched the sound just change. I mean, it seems like from like feeling like there's time periods of 10 years down to 5 to 3 to now things rise and fall pretty quick, which can be dangerous for people's careers if they really get known for something and they can't get outside of that box. People may lose interest, but you see, you know, a funny thing that's just human nature is that people sort of, you know, art imitates other art, and you have people that will hear what someone else is doing, be inspired by that, and kind of nick it as much as possible. And that's can be a good thing for the original artist, but it can also create these sort of movements that rise and fall with very narrow, defined parameters.
Speaking of stupid movements, can EDM exist without a 4 on the floor? I mean, some of the trance stuff, some of the slower stuff is getting away from that. Is it still EDM? I mean, is it?
Absolutely. It's hard to say. I mean, the funny part to me I was thinking about recently is like the whole concept of EDM as electronic dance music. It's sort of like the E of electronic is going to have to vanish at some point because everything is becoming electronic, and whether it's pop and everything. It's almost like not necessary to say because it's just sort of inherently. And so, and then the D, you have this dance where there's, you know, some...
The live shows, not everybody dances.
Yeah, like you have, you know, dubstep and the sort...
What were we talking about, the elephant dance?
Yes, the
Remember when I used to call Brian's video the elephant dance?
I don't.
I did. I used to tease you about that. He brought that up the other day, and I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah, you have the one arm in the air, kind of waving like a trunk. And it's pretty much the dance. So.
For all people who can't dance. Absolutely.
That's pretty cool.
Is the passion for the space as big here in North America, or do you find it bigger outside the country? Or
there's certain places. I mean, going to Guatemala was just mind blowing. I mean,
Really?
the kids there were sort of just so excited and so starved in a way because there's a lot. Not everyone's coming through there. So
Yeah.
I just felt like, I mean, I felt I was dead mouse in a sense for a day there, where
Wow.
it's just these kids were so excited that I was there, and endless autographs and picture taking and all that, and I couldn't believe like just the energy of the crowd jumping the entire hour and a half, 2 hours, just
Are you
bouncing.
in Castlevania going to Guatemala tomorrow? Or are you going to Mexico?
Going to Mexico.
Oh, what part of Mexico are you guys playing in?
Going to
tomorrow?
Mexicali, is it?
Oh, near the border.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Golly, the question went right out of my brain. Help me here, Herb. Oh, I remember what I was going to ask you. When I first started out, I had a lot of classical in my background because of my mom, and like I said, you got perfect pitch. You were playing cello at what, 3 months old or something like that, and I had to unlearn a lot of my classical. Like when I first learned to play guitar, my mom would not allow me to let my thumb come over the neck, and now then you see Hendrix and all you see is thumb, and I had to make a lot of adjustments. Did you have to unlearn some stuff to get into let's call everything inclusive the pop world, or did it like it hurt me for a while?
I think so. I mean, one thing I noticed early on, like doing the music major in college, I was witnessing a friend of mine who was like rock guitar player, and he started studying jazz, and he started getting into all the scales and modes and bebop patterns, and he started, I called it the jazz trap, because he just fell into this way of things are supposed to be this way and you're supposed to do this.
I fell in that trap too.
And I just thought that was ridiculous. So in a way, maybe yes. I try to rely on it more as just like a Swiss Army knife, where it's like if you need to harmonize something, you know some options that are available. But you know, the most successful guys, you know, I watch guys that are umpteen times more successful than me, but don't have my musical training, and that knowledge. Similar to technical and engineering knowledge, like if you're an artist, you don't necessarily need all that. You just really need to hear it in your head and trust and just fight the speakers, in a sense, till you hear what you want to hear. That's how guys seem to be doing just fine. So.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were talking about before the show. That you can't lose that part of your Swiss Army knife, which is here's the stuff I can rely on, and here's the stuff that's just gut or intellectual or intuitive, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw you a curveball even before Batter's Box. What's your favorite preset on Massive?
Oh, you know what? I don't really use Massive.
Oh, you don't?
Because so many guys do, and it's...
Well, that ain't going to bother me. What's your favorite preset on Contact?
Contacts, just sample libraries, right? I like the Berlin piano, and I'll use that, and it's great at low velocity. So I like to just take all my velocities and just put them on really low, and then just compress the hell out of it, and you just get this really mellow.
What's another one, Dylan? Contact. What's your favorite preset on Contact?
It's Contact. Yeah.
I mean, Reactor.
Oh, Reactor's awesome. I love my favorite thing is Space Master Reverb on Reactor, which just makes these unnaturally.
Wait! I can't write that fast.
Space Master. It's one of the built-in modules. It's an effect ensemble, I guess it's called. It's a reverb that just does this algorithmically giant kind of reverbs when you want that kind of unnatural canyon type of giant sound. I love that for sound design on effecty sounds, especially. I'll get cymbal crashes or put a kick drum through it, and you get that boom kind of sonic boom explosion.
What have you written any new plugins lately? Do you have anything new on your website that we should be aware of?
I have some stuff on the freeware page that's pretty recent. I did the Massive inside Native Instruments Massive. There's a dimension expander effect, and I found the guts of that, which are in Reactor actually in this ensemble called Photon. They have a dimension expander module. So
cool.
I got to see how it worked, and I just recoded that in C and made it into a VST plugin. So I just give it away for free since it's not really my intellectual property, and I'm not out to make a buck on it. It just took me an afternoon. So that is basically the dimension expander effect that you can find in Massive, but that allows you to run it on anything, a vocal or any other synth or anything.
And your website's also your record company website too.
That's right. I have yet to get it all up there with music releases and stuff, but this year I'm doing a lot more music releases, so it's going to, when we get the website completely redone, and we'll have sort of music and software equally represented. But right now I just use it really as a place to sell my software, which is the majority of my income is through.
Give us a quick, 30-second overview of some of the software that you're selling, that you wrote.
Yeah, I have two products for sale on there. One is called Nerve, and it's a software drum machine that I co-designed with deadmau5. We just felt there was sort of a need for something that was really compact and focused and allow you to take a beat idea and get it made quickly. So Nerve has a lot of sound sculpting abilities too. You can mangle samples in ways that you really can't do anywhere else, like turn a sinusoid into a sawtooth or stuff like that.
Wow,
so
cool.
you can really use it for sample processing in cool ways. So Nerve's on there, comes with a couple gigabytes of samples as well that are all royalty free, and there's a demo as well. And then the other product on there is called LFO Tool, and LFO Tool allows you to sort of do either the dubstep wobble. Hey, that's a page. That's a page of Nerve. Yep. Oh, there's the pre-calculated. You can turn it into a saw as shown. So yeah, that's LFO Tool is the other one, and that allows you to do automatic side chaining. You know, where a lot of people like this kind of pumping effect. But LFO Tool gives you a graph where you can really draw in and sculpt exactly how you want that to happen, and you don't have to go through the hassle of routing a kick drum as source into it and all that. So it's been incredibly popular. I'm surprised how many kind of.
I was just told that I would need to buy that.
Oh, cool.
You use that
No,
too?
you don't need to.
I haven't used it yet, but like someone literally emailed me like 2 days ago and was like, you have to use it.
Oh, cool.
Awesome.
Hey, I know this is a harsh, kind of abrupt change. It's like a.
Do it quickly because we got to go to Batter's Box.
When you were working with Andy Wallace, is one of my favorite rock guys of all time,
Yes.
and just as you know, sweetheart of a guy, car collector. I mean, we have so many things in common. Well, the thing that impressed me about Andy was his minimalistic approach to. I mean, like when you go into a lot of star mixers rooms, you have to navigate this maze of gear. Andy had I think he had like 2 PCM 42s, and that was it.
That's right.
And he gets these massive records, Herb. It's like, it just, it made me depressed for a month, because a lot of my career is built on hype, so I had all this gear, and Andy has so little. That was his MO, right?
It was an amazing experience working with Andy. It changed a lot for me. I had a similar experience with Alan Mulder on the Nine Inch Nails' Fragile record, in the sense where Alan's going, mate, I don't even know what 1K sounds like. I just turn the knobs till it sounds good. And it was so refreshing in a sense. It's like, oh, thank you, when you talk to everyone that's so tech talk, to know that, oh, it's actually how it sounds is what matters. Like, let's not lose sight
But
of
you're
that.
the first guy that brought a Pro Tools rig into Andy's room.
That's right. Yeah, he was really reluctant and never used one before. And kind of the reason I was there was to make sure that the sync was working and then everything was going without a hitch. So I got to be a fly on the wall and watch him mix 2 Perfect Circle records. Amazing experience. I mean, I learned so much. You know, him having sort of a musician background, I think, it seems to me that all the best mix guys really are musicians and understand that they think musically. They know, you know, when a part enters that they need to sort of feature that. Oh, that's the new thing, and that's important. And the knees bouncing, they're trying to get into the music, and it. I think without that, I'd see, you know, from approaching it from a completely clinical perspective, and just not enjoying his music. I don't think you could elicit the same emotional feeling in the music.
I haven't spoken to Andy in a couple of years. I wonder if he's more pro plug-in now. Do you think I should just call him up? I know it's a horrible question to ask you, but I bet he is. I bet he's digging de-essers and some of the things that make your life easier now.
I would think so. You know, it was funny at the time that he had never, you know, allowed a Pro Tools system in, because it was really just for him. It was all just about, with the tape, it just works. I can hit here, it rewinds, hit here, go again. And even with the Pro Tools, he started using little advantages. Like, hey, Steve, you can see when that part enters. Tell me what minutes and seconds, because he liked to write down all the times.
It's not fair to turn you into an Andy Wallace show, but I'm such a huge fan. I'm gonna call Andy and get him on the show. But thanks for doing that for us. I'm such a big fan.
Let's tee up batter's box and
Okay,
put Steve in it.
Let's do. So, what you want to do, Steve? You want to do plug-ins?
Plugins is safe.
Okay.
I think that's safe.
Okay. Lead vocals.
Lead vocals, oh geez, I like a whole chain. I like the Waves SSL, just channel strip because it's convenient, and I like to. It really depends on the thing, but for dance stuff, I like phasers and choruses and all that kind of stuff too. In there, so I like the Korg MDEX effect. Is kind of cheap as it is in a way. I just find that's a great way for sort of the modulation stuff.
Oh, cool. What about acoustic guitars?
Oh, acoustic guitars. I don't have to do very many of those very often, but yeah,
Well, let's make it simple on you. A synth acoustic guitar sound.
Oh, okay. You know, generally, mostly EQ and delay would be the main thing. So I'm not too particular on. You know, I really turn to the stock stuff a lot, so I'm in Ableton Live most of the time. So ping pong delay or simple delay and EQ, and just you know, give it the frequency contour that I want and call it done.
What about a rap lead?
Rap lead, oh boy, that's out of my expertise a little bit, I'm afraid to say.
Well, let's just skip that one.
Yeah.
What about synth bass?
Synth bass, in terms of an actual synth, I love F-Expansion Strobe. A good friend of mine, Andrew, did all the DSP on that, and he's a genius, so that's one of my favorites. It's kind of analog-y, old school, but it's the best, and hardly even needs processing if you do that. I'll run it through sometimes some all-pass filters or something like that.
What about kick drums?
Kick drums, you know, in the dance world, usually you're starting with samples, and the right sample generally won't need much. But yeah, I would say I would try. I almost never put anything on the kick drum.
So you don't ever compress them or anything?
No, I mean you don't need to in the dance world. And
samples come stock.
Yeah.
Well, I'll take a shot here. Snares, same thing.
Snares, pretty much the same thing. I like some kind of pseudo stereo effects. Sometimes I'll use. There's a PC only one that I'm forgetting the name of at the moment. But I'll do some kind of stereo effects, especially on claps and that kind of thing.
Oh, okay. Got you. So it's more of a wide kind of thing.
Yes.
Do you ever stereo out your kicks?
Never have.
Okay.
Should I?
No. He'll tell you. First thing I do is put them all in mono.
I would think. Yeah.
It's just. But anyway, piano-y sounds.
Oh, pianos. Like I was saying, I love to try to get the dullest types of pianos a lot of the time.
Really?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. Who was it? I think it was Bach. When the piano was invented, Bach said it's much too bright. And I kind of side with him, even though I played piano for years. I kind of side with him, which I like.
That's interesting.
My favorite piano sounds are the duller kind of ones. So On the Kurzweil K2500, there's this great thing where you can do this octave shifting, where it's basically changing the root notes. So certain pitch area is now playing the sample that was intended for a different one. Kind of ends up with like a format shift sort of a thing. That's a really cool way to get a dull sort of piano sound. But otherwise, you can EQ, or if you have a velocity split piano, you can just bring those velocities down and use something low. Because when I'm using piano, it's generally for something that's mellow anyway, so I'll generally prefer a duller kind of sound.
This is a lengthier question than I normally ask, but when you're going for a distorted kind of buzzy sound on a keyboard, what's your go-to choice for that?
Oh, well, I love wave shapers, and I actually on my X for Records website, if you add /freeware, Freeware, you can get some free plugins. One of them I have called 8-bit Shaper, and an 8-bit Shaper is really just a direct remap of your sample values in an 8-bit domain, so you can just draw this crazy wave shape, and it will just mangle something like a broken Atari. So I love to use that with a dry wet.
You tried that, Drew?
Check it out, it's free. But you can bring the dry wet down to just like 10% or 5%. So you just have this high end that didn't exist before in there. So that's a lot of the time what I'll do on more lower kind of synth basses or something to give it more of a dirty sound.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what about your stereo bus?
Stereo bus, I like to mix it up. It's funny as it sounds, it can influence so much kind of how I'm approaching things that every track, often I'll try to start with something new. My current thing that I love to do is just, I've kind of backed off a bit, but I'll do some kind of stereo widening, like a Waves S1 or something like that.
On the whole bus?
Yeah, because what's happening with a lot of these dance stuff is you have stuff that's just mono, right, like your kick and all that. So anything that's in stereo is really only like these loopy things or these synth stereo pads. So it's a little different. Yeah, but I'll do it on the whole bus, but not extreme.
I got one more for you. I'm going to reverse it. I'm going to give you the answer, and you tell me the question.
Oh, wow.
Compressors.
Compressors.
What tracks would you use a compressor on?
Oh, I thought I was supposed to formulate a question. Compressors, I would compress almost nothing. It seems to me you see people, oh, throw a compressor on it, throw a compressor on it. And I see all the time people putting compressors on samples and all that.
It doesn't need it.
Yeah, you could do an envelope thing on the sample if you really wanted a certain thing. Compressors are on stuff to me that's only just super dynamic. So it'll be on the master bus. It'll be on a subgroup if I'm lazy and I want a crutch, so to speak, to take a subgroup of, say, a bunch of loop parts together. I'll throw a compressor on that.
And what's your go-to compressor for that?
Cytomic the Glue, which is my same friend Andrew, who wrote the DSP and the F Expansion Synth Squad. He started Cytomic, which it's basically the quad comp on the G bus on the G. I mean, he's nailed it. So I love that one. I'll use that most of the time. If I'm feeling really lazy, I'll use a multiband comp. If I really just want things to just stay consistent, even though the input's changing. But yeah, I use very little compression. I mean, most of it's on the master bus.
It's interesting that you use the term lazy when you talk about compressors. That sounds like a Bruce Woodine thing. Grade him, Herb. How do you do?
I think we have to add the scientist award to that because he clearly was a scientist. Absolutely.
How do you do, Drew? What grade would you give him? Huh?
Cooperstown bound. Definitely
Cooperstown. All right.
Well, let's go to our corner office and have Drew, who is manning it. Hey, Drew, what's happening?
What's happening? What's happening? I got a question here from, actually, it's a response to a tweet, Steve.
Okay.
Michael Van Olden just read on Steve's Twitter account. He posted, fake producer tip number 002. Look at meters to get a good mix. Never trust your ears. Can you please ask him to elaborate on this? Also teach us something about his metering tools and techniques.
Oh, sure. Well, the word fake is the important part there, which a lot of people missed. Yeah, I started posting basically the opposite of what I think is important. While I do think it's possible that if you were deaf and you knew enough about sound and metering, you probably could. It would be an interesting experiment with someone to not get to listen at all and see if they could mix with metering. But I'm really just joking. I hardly look at meters at all.
I think I hear the radio and hear a lot of that going on as is.
Drew?
Yeah, from Glenn McCrae. Question for Steve. Many DJs transition to becoming mixers, producers. Any advice for mixers, producers trying to get into DJing?
Yes, that's more of my direction was the mixer producer to DJ, and it's really all about getting music out there. Whether you're giving away for free, getting it to big DJs however you can, just getting people to hear it. It's all about, you know, a successful DJ career will quickly follow music that people like and that DJs are playing.
Very cool. One more time. We have time for one more? All right. From Yev Bronstein. As a drum programmer, how do you go about finding kick, snare sounds for remixes? Do you rip them from other records, make them from scratch, layer several existing samples together?
That's a good question.
And if you're programming a drum track by hand, how much do you go about making it feel human rather than quantized to the grid?
Both good questions. On the first one, what I like to do is in my time off when I'm not really working on a tune, is I do sound design. I did a sample CD with deadmau5 that we sell called Xfer Sample CD. And then also with Nerve, there's a whole folder of kicks I made. Oddly enough, there's all these like top guys using these kick drums I made, like Avicii and Zed and deadmau5 and all these guys. And basically what I do is spend time doing that, making my own sounds, because I feel like that's much more interesting than going to these sound libraries that everyone else is. So it's been sort of a...
But you just killed your potential customers. You said you make all your own sounds and you love doing it. Don't make your own. You go make your own sounds. Don't buy my thing. It's almost like you said the same sentence.
They're welcome to if they don't want to, or they could learn by analyzing mine. But essentially, I just start by taking a few samples that I really like and I analyze the heck out of them. So I just look at how long is this sort of transient material last? What is the frequency sweep? Because most kicks are pretty easy. You can see the frequency change. In fact, there's a feature in Nerve, my software drum machine, where it'll log you out a text file of all the frequencies from start to end. So if you want to know a kick sweeping from 220 down to 40 hertz, it'll tell you that.
Cow.
And it'll tell you the midpoint as well.
Can I run that plugin in Pro Tools?
You can run it in Pro Tools inside of, say, Machine or Core.
Oh, okay.
It'll work in those. But
Do I get a discount?
Of course you get it for free.
Thanks.
Come on.
Yes.
But
It's good to be Dave. Good to be Dave.
But so yes, that's the first question. Is I like to make my own sounds, and then the second is for human feel. I believe in having things completely quantized and doing everything with dynamics and sound choice and that sort of thing. And
Do you deliberately like lay the kick snare back a millisecond or two, or you try to keep everything tight to the
yeah,
grid?
I'll push snares and claps early so that when you have this loud kick drum and the whole mix is getting compressed, you can lose that snare and clap altogether.
Oh, so you put it ahead.
Yeah, so I'll put it ahead of the beat so you'll hear that. That's what most guys are doing in dance music. Pretty decent amount, like up to a quarter of a 16th note, or yeah, usually about 64th note or so. So I do that, but otherwise, anecdotally, when I was working on the Perfect Circle record, and I recorded a lot of drummers, and then Josh Freese, who's just a monster drummer, I just couldn't believe after doing a drum take, you zoom in on the waveform, and every hit's just zoom, 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 just right there. No, that can't be. Zoom out, zoom into another one, zoom, zoom, zoom. I'm like, Josh, you're like a machine. And he's like, all groove, no feel, baby. And so I kind of like that mantra. I mean, it's expressive as heck, but it's all just right on the grid. Pretty close to it, so I do very well.
Early in my career, I worked with a lot of the Cameo guys, and Charlie, Kevin, and those guys, Larry. Man, those guys were like that. It's like you say, lay the snare back like 3 milliseconds, and you go in and check it, and it's like 3 milliseconds.
No.
It just makes you angry. Kind of like your skill set makes me angry.
Oh, come on.
What a fast hour.
Wow.
That was an hour?
Yeah.
Power
absolutely.
of coffee. All right.
Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Was it a good time? Did you have a good
Oh,
time?
no, it's an honor. I'm really, really happy to
Because
be
you know
here.
we're going to be calling you back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
Hopefully that's a good thing.
Please,
What a
definitely.
pleasure.
Hey, Herb,
Yeah.
Herb,
What
you
a
see
pleasure.
this? You see this right here? That's all I covered today. I still have this.
That's why he's coming back. That's why he's absolutely coming back. Well, let's
Man, Steve, thank you so much. What a thrill. I learned so much.
Dave,
What a pleasure.
anytime.
Absolutely.
I
This
learned
is
so
wonderful.
much.
This is a
Happy to
space
be
we want to be in. It's important to us.
Cool.
Before we wrap up, remember, guys, to get your entree in. Here's our wonderful Pro Tools 10 from our Avid guys, and you know where to enter. You saw it up on the screen, and pensadosplace.tv/Avid. And let's get that winner. Again, congratulations to the winner. There it is up on the page, and our winner again was Dwayne Smith, I think. Yeah, Dwayne Smith from North Carolina. So let's make sure you enter that. I think we will wrap up the show and get out of here. Dave, you want to make a mention? Unfortunately, we had another week where a legend was lost.
Man, I tell you what, getting real serious, guys. Herb's going to take the lead on this, but it's what's going on, Herb? I mean, it's like You know, let me just get corny with you for a minute. I mean, I think not just this situation, but a lot of situations in life. Well, we got to start looking out for each other. We got a little tiny club here in the music world. Let's use this as a way to kind of look out and help each other. I'm not saying anybody needs help or needed help, but it just reminded me of the importance of our little community and how special we are. And when we lose one, it hurts us all tremendously, right, Herb?
Yeah, and I think you nailed it. You know, you've had personal experiences with Whitney, and was your experience with her was great?
It was incredible. Damon Elliott is her cousin, and I worked with her and Damon for a couple of days, and it was just a wonderful experience. This was not that long ago, and you know, sometimes, Herb, when we meet celebrities, we're scared that they're not going to meet our expectations.
Yep.
You want the greats to be great as humans.
Absolutely.
And she didn't let me down in any way.
You know,
her voice was spectacular. Her personality was magnanimous. She worried about me working late. She was funny, witty. I asked her all the stupid questions that just a basic fan would ask, not her engineer. She was very polite and answered them all.
It parallels my experience. I mean, the short version of my experience was singers really respect other singers, and the environment that they want to see other singers in is live. It's one thing in the studio, but live is where you show your stuff. And we are on the second night of a sold-out Radio City Music Hall show, and Brian was doing his thing, and we got a request about an hour before the show. Whitney wants to come to the show. We made amends. We came in, and about 3 songs before the end of the show, I got another request. Whitney wanted to come back and talk with us for a couple minutes. Could we hold people? So we did. And I found myself stage left, Radio City Music Hall, sold out. It was Whitney, Bobby, me, and Brian talking. And the gracious, you know, one, I'm trying to act cool.
Yeah, me too.
I'm like, oh God,
yeah.
I'm sitting with Whitney Houston. And she just, in the coolest, most supportive, but yet analytical way, was complimenting Brian and his skills and talking about his jaw movement on falsettos. It was just from singers. And, you know, when you're lucky enough, there's certain singers on Mount Rushmore, and I happen to represent a singer that a lot of people like. So Stephen Stills and Stevie Wonder and Bocelli and Mary J. So when Whitney is telling you stuff like that, and I remember going home that night going, man, I was just backstage with Whitney. So she was just as gracious as you're talking about. She was a super pro. Who knows what the circumstances, but we lost a legend. Her legacy will be incredible. And we honor and respect her. Last little thing. One of the coolest things I saw was they had a little memorial outside the hotel that was growing. And I saw a news report where a car pulled up, guy in sweatpants jumps out with his wife, lays down flowers and says something. It was Paul McCartney.
No joke.
No announcement, no entourage, just set up and
That's the way it should be.
So anyways,
guys,
don't want to believe the planet.
All this bullshit on TV that you're hearing, turn that crap off. Make them suffer. Don't buy their products. Whitney was a great singer. She was a great person. Her family is a spectacular family. Cissy Houston, Dionne Warwick, Damon and David Elliott, on and on and on. Her daughter, Bobby. I mean, you know, remember her for what she was. She was a great, great singer and a great human being, and she's going to be greatly missed. And we'll see you next week.